on. We have joining us now is Mike Davis, the Article 3 Project. Mike, we've got this Todd Blanche confirmation hearing ongoing right now. Very, very testy, right? So we want to weigh in on it. The left is basically saying this is Trump's private attorney. He's doing Trump's bidding. I don't believe that that's true, first of all. But even if it were true, hypothetically, is there anything in the Constitution that precludes that?
Remember, President Obama said that Eric Holder was his wingman, and President John F. Kennedy hired his brother, Robert Kennedy, to be his attorney general. I don't think Democrats should be crying too much about Todd Blanche as the next attorney general. Todd Blanche is on a glide path to confirmation. He will be confirmed by August recess, probably around August 5th or 6th. And the reason is Todd has demonstrated once again today that he is uniquely qualified for this job. He has been a law clerk in the Justice Department. He was a paralegal and worked his way through night school to get his law degree. He's been a federal prosecutor, a line attorney, and assistant U.S. attorney in the Southern District of New York, the most prestigious U.S. attorney's office in the country. He was at a big white shoe law firm in New York, and he gave all that up to go represent President Trump against this Democrat lawfare, this weaponization, this Republic-ending lawfare. It was Todd Blanche, along with Emil Bovey, his partner, who is now a judge on the Third Circuit, Boris, Will Scharf, Alina Habba, John Sauer, so many good people who went in there and fought for President Trump against that lawfare, and they won. And now President Trump is back in the White House saving America. Todd Blanche was confirmed as the Deputy Attorney General just under 16 months ago. Every Senate Republican voted for him. The Deputy Attorney General has all the statutory powers, or almost all the statutory powers as the Attorney General. Todd has fired the bad people, hired the good people, closed the bad cases, brought the good cases. He hired Joe DeGenova to bring accountability for the lawfare. Joe DeGenova is working with Jason Redding Quinones, my friend, who's the Miami U.S. attorney. They've gotten grand juries open. If you believe the news reporting, subpoenas have gone out. Todd Blanche is firing on all cylinders. Todd understands that he has to get rid of a weaponized justice system, and that means bringing reforms and accountability. So that's going to happen. So the Justice Department goes back to working for Americans, to making sure that we are putting bad guys in prison. We're putting violent criminals in prison. We're putting migrants who commit crimes in prison instead of going after your political enemies, their top aides, their allies, parents, Christians. Todd Blanche is the real deal. He has lived the lawfare. He has the unique experience. He is uniquely qualified to address it.
You know, it's interesting, Mike. Sometimes I hear kind of whisper campaign in conservative circles that Todd is actually just a sort of liberal New York kind of guy, and he's kind of wolf in sheep's clothing is the accusation against him. I sort of look at his track record. I look at the fact that he did decide to represent President Trump in a point where it was very difficult to do so, and he had a lot to lose. And so I've always kind of taken it with a grain of salt. I don't know if it's worth addressing, but Mike, I'm sure you've heard this criticism. What do you make of it?
Man, a New York Democrat, I can't believe we would have a New York Democrat like President Trump in the White House. I mean, Todd Blanche, like a lot of people, a lot of businessmen, a lot of lawyers in New York City, you're a Democrat. But, Todd Blanche has been through the lawfare ringer with President Trump in many courtrooms in many states across America. He's seen it. He beat it. He's the real deal. Just look at his track record as the Deputy Attorney General for the last nearly 16 months. Look at his track record as the acting Attorney General.
Fair enough.
For the last several months. This guy, look, I would much rather have someone like Todd Blanche, who is a New York Democrat or whatever the hell he is, than someone like Mark Wayne Mullen, who is telling TPS, Haitians and Syrians after we won a Supreme Court case after 5 years to just apply for permanent residency, or Mark Wayne Mullen, who's telling ICE agents that they can't do traffic stops anymore, and the president had to overrule him today on a truth post. I think I would rather go with someone like Todd Blanche, who has actually bled for the president, than some Washington swamp creature like Mark Wayne Mullen.
Well, I mean, your point is well made. I'm holding back judgment on that. I'm doing my research before I weigh in on that, the traffic stop thing. So, Mark Wayne has come on the show before, was friends with Charlie, so I'm doing my research there, but I'm probably going to weigh in tomorrow. So I hear you loud and clear. I want to get to this point of, I thought Senator Eric Schmitt did a pretty stand-up job of pointing out one of the big hypocrisies in the left's arguments against confirming Todd Blanche's AG Satu.
I heard one of my colleagues say that this is the most troubled Department of Justice in history. I happen to live through the previous administration where you had a Department of Justice completely weaponized against political opponents. They tried to throw their chief political opponent in jail, ruin his family's lives. When you go after your political opponents, that is a weaponization. When you hold people accountable who weaponize the justice system, that's not the same thing.
That's a key distinction that's getting lost in the noise right now, and I was so glad he called it out. Because if you remember, one of the mandates, and if you talk to any base voter, any conservative grassroots voter, they want accountability for the weaponization that was exacted upon conservatives during the last administration. Holding those people accountable is not weaponization. It's called the law. And I was just so glad to hear him do that. I don't know if you want to opine on that a little bit, Mike, but I have one more clip for you, too.
I love Senator Eric Schmitt from Missouri. He's one of the best senators we have. And he's exactly right. What Biden and Obama did to Trump, his top aides, his allies, his supporters, parents, Christians, is they went after them for non-crime, right? That's illegal. Now that we're holding them accountable for their lawfare, their weaponization, their conspiracy against rights under 18 U.S.C. Section 241, that's called accountability. That's ensuring we bring reforms so this never happens again.
Yeah. Well, and listen, they're falling flat. I'm going to play two clips here really quick. This, excuse me, this is Senator Dick Durbin crying foul about the SPLC indictments, SOT 8.
You have also baselessly indicted the Southern Poverty Law Center, a civil rights organization that has worked tirelessly to expose violent extremists like the Proud Boys and Oath Keepers.
It's got to be living under a rock. It's just amazing that he would even consider launching that attack. I had to play that because it's just too rich. But this is actually the clip I'm most interested in getting to. This is Marsha Blackburn. I forgot about this. She was calling for transparency on Epstein during the Biden administration, and she got shut down, and she calls him to account on this. SOT 13.
I would like to make you aware that when Ranking Member Durbin was chairman in the last Congress, I tried repeatedly to subpoena the Epstein files so that we could get those banking records and those flight logs, and repeatedly that was blocked. So the Democrats at that point didn't want to know what was in the Epstein files until they lost the majority.
I was so glad she called Dick Durbin out for this, because not only was he being just ridiculous on this SPLC matter, he was blocking the release of the Epstein files. Mike Davis.
Yeah, so the Southern Poverty Law Center, the SPLC, funded the Ku Klux Klan, right? They funded the Ku Klux Klan while they were telling their donors that they're fighting the Ku Klux Klan. We have such little hate in America that the SPLC had to manufacture hate by working with the Klan. And now Dick Durbin is on the side of the SPLC and the Ku Klux Klan. So that shows you how far Dick Durbin has fallen. And Epstein, and he's defending Epstein. Look, President Trump threw Epstein out of Mar-a-Lago, right? With all the nonsense that they've thrown at President Trump over the last decade, if they had any evidence that Trump was part of the Epstein mess, that would have come out. They had to make up crimes to go after President Trump, right? And it's the Democrats who are the party of the child rapist, of the pedophiles, of the illegal aliens. It's not the Republican Party.
Well, and don't forget, Mike Davis, they lost 450,000 migrant children just in the interior. Just a lot of them got raped, sexually assaulted, abused. They didn't care. Hang right there, Mike Davis. I want to talk about Fulton County in just a second. Did you guys know that July is grilling month? I certainly do. I have a brand new grill, and I can't wait to use it. I'm going to do it tomorrow. Amazing company. Good Ranchers partners with local farmers and ranchers. They deliver 100% American meat. And by the way, Brooke Rollins needs to get on this. I've been texting her about it. Gotta have American meat properly labeled. But with Good Ranchers, you don't even need to worry about that because they only work with American farmers. So visit goodranchers.com today. Get a box of all American raised, pasture raised meat. No antibiotics, none of that stuff. Use promo code Charlie for $50 off your first order. Promo code Charlie for $50 off your first order. Goodranchers.com. Promo code Charlie, $50 off your first order. Get a box shipped directly to you today. We'll be right back. Because they're great people and they work really hard. So thanks to everybody making this possible. Mike Davis is with us, Article 3 Project. Mike, we're expecting a big announcement tomorrow. President Trump has hinted at it, a lot of speculation of what it could be, what it could mean. You're connected to a lot of these people. Do you have any insight for us?
I do, but I can't say. So thanks for putting me on the spot there. But I would say this.
I warned you before the break, Mike.
Election integrity is crucially important. And I think after President Trump's remarks tomorrow, I think there's going to be no more excuses for Senate Republicans to not get the Save America Act passed and on President Trump's desk. If we do not have secure elections in America, if we let illegal aliens vote in our elections, we lose our sovereignty as we the people, the sovereign citizens of America. That is unacceptable. And Senate Republicans, look, the Save America Act has support of over 80% of Americans, including a supermajority of Democrats, a supermajority of minorities, and even a supermajority of Black Americans. You know, those Black Americans who Democrats pretend do not have the wherewithal to get a voter ID like everyone else, when Democrats really just want their illegal aliens to vote in our elections. And so what are the Democrats scared of? Why do they not want to have verifications in our election systems? Why do they not want voter ID? Why do they not want proof of citizenship? We know why. They want to replace voters in America, as they've done in New York City when they let illegal aliens vote, and then we get third world Marxist Islamist communist like Mayor Mandani or whatever the hell his name is, who's going to destroy America's financial capital. The Republicans need to get their heads out of their behinds and pass the Save America Act. This 60 vote threshold argument's nonsense. You need 60 votes to cut off legislation. You need a simple majority to pass legislation. 60 votes to cut off debates in the Senate, and 50 votes plus the vice president to pass legislation. If Democrats want to debate the Save America Act, cancel August recess. Recess is for kids.
Oh, amen, Mike. Now you're speaking my language. No, this garbage about them taking like 48 weeks off every year is got to stop. It's got to stop.
It's time for me to swoop in, because this is just the thing that makes me so angry, especially because there's nothing these lawmakers care more about than apparently getting reelected. And I can't think of anything that would help them get reelected more than shaking up the idea that all they do is sit around and do nothing. They've strung us along for, 6 months at this point on the SAVE Act, where we hear, oh, we're getting really close. We're getting really close. And we've just been around the block on this so much. And if they could just make a big dramatic show, I'm sure Leader Thune could arrange for cameras to do this. If he made a big show of, here's we're going to make sure every single vacancy is filled for every nominee that President Trump has put forward, and then we're passing these signature legislative items, SAVE Act, throw some border security stuff in, fix birth tourism. If you were able to blast that out to the American people in the last month leading up to an election, I think it might really give people the impression that Congress is getting things done and helping to deliver. The people like winners. They like people who go out and achieve things.
Yeah.
Even if
You've
they
gotta
otherwise
give
would
people
feel
a reason to
skeptical on the
vote.
policies. They'll like it if they're
you gotta
getting
give reason-
done.
Let's listen to Democrat Senator Elisa Slotkin. The Save America Act would make it hard for Democrats to win. Oh, that's an interesting quote. SOT 20.
The other thing that we blocked yesterday was the SAVE Act, right? Well, this administration to rig our democracy so that it would be hard for any Democrat in any state to win any election. And disenfranchise all married women in the meantime, by the way. It just, you have to show your birth certificate at the polls if you have a married name.
These guys are such liars. I'm so sick of it.
Yeah,
But
as we said
go ahead.
yesterday,
Women are too stupid and blacks are too stupid, according to Democrats, to get a voter ID like everyone else. This is just unbelievable, the measures that they will take to prevent voter integrity. They know that illegal aliens are illegally voting in our elections, and that they desperately want those illegal aliens to vote. That's why these Democrats are doing everything they can to stop the Save America Act. And that's why it is so inexcusable for Senate Majority Leader John Thune to not put this on President Trump's desk. I would say to John Thune, if you can't pass legislation with over 80% support of Americans, including a supermajority of Democrats, minorities, and black voters, you're in the wrong line of work, John Thune. You should go back to South Dakota, because you should not be in Congress. You should certainly not be the legislative leader in the Senate if you can't get that done.
All right. So, Mike Davis, final 2 minutes here. You can't give us anything more about Fulton County. Anything at all? Indictments. What is it? What is it about?
I would say that after President Trump's speech, there's going to be a tremendous amount of pressure for John Thune to actually do his job and get the Save America Act to President Trump's desk. And I predict that will actually happen.
All right, you're being squirrely. I'm going to let you off the hook just this once, but I'm going to text you immediately after the press conference. Final thought here. We talked about it in the first hour. ACB's coming under a lot of criticism. People are saying she should resign. She should, step aside if she's afraid. And the allegation is that the threats are making her a coward, that she's voting or ruling against the conservative worldview, of jurisprudence. What do you think, Mike? Is that unfair to her, or are you on that team?
I'm fully on that team. I think that Amy Coney Barrett's a disaster. She auditioned as the next Justice Scalia. Her supporters, her proponents, sold her as the next Justice Scalia. She was either a fraud and she's not the next Justice Scalia, or something changed her. And I think it's the latter. I think those Dobbs protests rattled her. And you saw this with her testimony before the Congress yesterday, where she was asking for more security. Look, threats against judges is inexcusable. People need to be prosecuted for that. And it's unfortunate that she's going through that. It's terrible. It's unacceptable. But her reaction was stunning. And I don't get stunned by much in Washington. She's rattled. I'm concerned she can't do the job because she's so concerned about the safety of her family.
Fair enough. Mike Davis, we will watch Fulton County very closely tomorrow, and I'll be texting you. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Until then.